Hi, today I'm going to show you how to use a macro to create a die rolling function within PowerPoint. As you can see, I'm already getting the project space set up, so while I'm doing that, here is our objective for this lesson. Alright, so let's begin. First of all, what are macros? Macros are small scripts or programs that are embedded in PowerPoint that give you a little bit more functionality or power to control what you're doing. But because they are programs, sometimes they may make people suspicious of a file. Personally, I would not trust a macro-enabled presentation unless I knew specifically who it came from. While they do add more power, they do require some knowledge in programming. They're programmed in Visual Basic Application, VBA. If you don't have any experience in programming, that's fine. I'll provide the script in the video so you can copy and paste. If you're interested in learning more, I would suggest spending some time with a simpler language such as Python or JavaScript to get the basics down. Alright, so I have a project created, just a regular new project. I just added a title just so we knew what we were talking about. The first thing that we want to do, we're making a button that's going to roll a die. So we need the button. It can be anything. There's two ways you can do this, but today we're going to do just a regular shape because I like to shape buttons versus ActiveX controllers. So we make a button and we change it to make it look more like a button. There, that's real clear. And then we'll just roll a die. And make the text black so it's easy to see. Okay, so there's our button. Next we need to go to our developer tab. If you do not have a developer tab up here, then just right click, customize quick access toolbar, and go to customize ribbon. And on the right hand side you can see developer. If that should be checked. If it's not, just go ahead and check it, add it, and you'll have the developer tab. So we're going to go to Visual Basic, and this is the coding environment for your project. I'm going to right click on VBA project and insert a module. So we're making a new module. Now, VBA is like most programs, and a lot of your typical best practices apply. So I like to start with an explanation of what this is, and it's just a dice rolling script. The asterisk at the top sets this apart as a comment so the computer won't read it. First thing we need to do is define our module. Roll die, that opens it. VBA automatically closes it for you. The next thing is we need to define our variable, rand number. Doesn't matter, I just made that up, just random number, as an integer, meaning that variable will always be a number. Alright, and then we need to set random number to something. Now this is where we're going to get our random number. Before we were just creating the placeholder for it. Now we're actually creating a random number to go into that placeholder. And this is the tricky part. While other languages, this can be done with a real simple function. VBA's is a little bit more difficult. And I'm going to type it out here and then I'll explain in a second what it is. We want to start first with int, defines it as an integer, open the parentheses, open another set, and we have our upper bound minus our lower bound, plus 1, and close that off. Add an asterisk times it, and the random function plus 1, plus our lower bound. Alright, and I'll put this up here again. I'm making a 6-sided die, so this would be like any typical 6-sided die. So our upper bound is going to be 6, our highest number, and our lower bound is going to be 1. We add 1 to include the 1, multiply by the random number to make it random. It's choosing between those to choose a random one between 6 and 1. Then we have that there, but now where do we put it? There's a couple of ways you could do this. You could add it to a text box, but that gets more complicated. It's easier just to create a message box. Now this is going to be the prompt, the little screen that comes up and you have to hit OK. I'm going to start with message box and then open a quotation and say you rolled a, I'm going to include these brackets and a space. You'll see why in a second. Close that with another parenthesis, space, add. Now we're going to take the variable random number that we used before, right up here. So the results of this function are going to be displayed right here as a string, so as a text. And space plus, open another quote, space, close these brackets. Now I included these brackets because just as is, the number was a little harder to see. And in a message box, you can't include bold or italics, any of those kind of emphasis styles. So I use this to offset the number. It's easier to see. You don't have to do that. And that's it. And then in sub. So we need to save. And we need to save our project. And I will just save it to the desktop. Now, normally PowerPoint would just be a regular PowerPoint presentation. We have to save it as a macro-enabled presentation. And I didn't do that before, so I got this message. So do I want to continue to save it as a macro-free? No. Go back, save again, go to save, type as, put it back on the desktop, macro-enabled presentation, and save. And I have a copy of this already on the desktop. All right, it's saved. Now you can test this by hitting the play button up here. And we only have one macro, and we want to run that one. Sure enough, there it is, a message box. You rolled a, and a 5 was our random number. Okay, but we still need to tie that to this button. This is still just a shape right now. It's not a button. Just go to Insert and Action and mouse click. So when this is clicked on, run the macro, roll die. Personal preference, I like the feedback, so we're going to include a sound. Let's make laser sound and highlight the click. And OK. Now if we preview and click, you rolled a 4. You rolled a 4. You rolled a 2. You rolled a 2. 5. 1. All right, and that is it. Once again, we just had new presentation, created our button, went to the Developer tab, opened our Visual Basic, created a new module, added our script, saved as a macro-enabled presentation, and then inserted an action with the button, mouse click, run macro. And that's it. Save. I'll include the script down below. I hope you can use this to help you improve and make your presentations more exciting. Thanks.